Hello friends, today on the Cowboys Report, we're taking a look at the top free agent targets for the Dallas Cowboys. But before we get into my top 25, I want to hear from you guys. Scroll on down to the comments section. Let me know who you want the Cowboys to sign this year in NFL free agency. Now, the Cowboys have plenty of money to spend this year in the offseason, about $81 million. That will ebb and flow based on other moves the Cowboys make. Now, make no mistake here, most of the money will be spent on the Cowboys' own players, the Dak Prescotts, the Amari Coopers, but a new staff will result in player changes. We're taking you through 25 guys, left out a lot of notable players. Normally, we begin with offense. We're going to go defense this year to start, though, because defense is where most of the money can and should be spent. A player that I think many of you will want, Ndamukong Suh. Now, his production has dipped lately. Don't get me wrong on that. But he still provides a valuable interior presence. And if the Cowboys are going to use more of a two-gapping scheme this year, Suh does fit that. And defensive tackle, as you'll see, I left off all kinds of player names. We will do a video just devoted to defensive linemen and defensive tackles this offseason because there are a lot of free agents the Cowboys can and should expect to lose. Malik Collins, Antoine Woods, one of those will probably back, probably Woods. He's an RFA. Collins is a free agent, though. Chris Covington, Tyrone Crawford could be cut or restructured. Michael Bennett might be gone. Defensive tackle going to be an area the Cowboys will have to address this offseason. Next up is Mike Pennell. Now, he is not the same big name as Ndamukong Suh, but he's probably more likely because he's cheap and he's played under Mike McCarthy. He can come in, give you some help at the one technique, that nose guard spot. Not a big household name, not going to bring you much in the pass rush, but he's a good run stopper. The Cowboys need more of those guys. An expensive name here as we'll go back and forth. Javon Hargrave, the Steelers nose guard. He fills a big need, offers you more in the passing game in terms of pass rush. I fear he's going to be too costly. He's worth mentioning, worth pursuing. I just don't know if the Dallas Cowboys are going to be willing to spend the type of money required to bring him in. We go back to another Mike McCarthy-tied player. That's Mike Daniels, who many of you wanted when he was cut, surprisingly, by the Packers before the 2019 season. Now, he is aging, and he is on the decline. That's shown in the numbers, the sacks, the tackles for loss. They've really dropped off as of late. But you bring him in on a cheap one-year deal. He knows McCarthy. I think that makes him a good, valuable locker room presence. On a cheap one-year deal? Sure. Why not? Just don't expect, prime 2015 Mike Daniels anymore. That's just not who he is at this point in his NFL career. All right, back to another big boy. That's DJ. We've mentioned him before on the show. Coming off his career best year. 6 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. Again, he's not going to be an Aaron Donald type guy, but he's a great run defender. That's an area I really hope the Cowboys focus on and address. All right, some other defensive tackles. As a reminder, we will go over other draft and free agent targets at the defensive tackle spot. There are a ton I like. Danny Shelton would be a great one-tech. Leonard Williams, Chris Jones would be great fits as well, but I wonder if they're too expensive, especially Chris Jones, who the Chiefs would be dumb to let leave. A pair of former Alabama players as well, A'Shawn Robinson and Jaron Reed, all make sense there, so keep an eye out for our full video of other defensive tackle players the Cowboys could sign. We'll do that later on in the offseason, and if you don't want to miss it, then go ahead and subscribe. Hit that big red button here. This is the #1 Cowboys YouTube channel, so if you love the Dallas Cowboys, then you need to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, you might get an ad break here, so if you're not already, take advantage of that. Scroll on down, hit that big red button, and subscribe. All right, let's talk pass rushers now. That's also an area of need with Robert Quinn being a free agent. This is part of the Will McClay special. Both edgers actually fit this mold here. Shaq Lawson, former early-round pick out of Clemson, coming off of his best year ever. I am told, though, he's looking to get out of Buffalo. That makes him an intriguing target for the Dallas Cowboys. You've got DeMarcus Lawrence on one end. You're still looking for that other pass rusher. If you lose Robert Quinn, someone like Shaq Lawson could make a lot of sense for the Dallas Cowboys. I wanted to put Shaq Barrett on here for back-to-back years, but he's going to be way too expensive, and I doubt the Bucs really let him leave in free agency either. Speaking of early round players who haven't quite lived up to expectations, that is Vic Beasley. The Falcons tried to trade him at the deadline, but he finished the year strong. 4 sacks over his final 4 games, ends the year with 8 sacks total. You're not going to get 2016 Vic Beasley. Those sack numbers were inflated. It was a bit of a fluke. But if I can get 5 sacks per year out of Vic Beasley, that's pretty valuable to me, especially as a situational pass rusher. I did not want to trade for him because of his contract, but in free agency, he's going to be way cheaper. All right, next up is Kyler Fackrell, who also played for Mike McCarthy in Green Bay. If you're hoping for the 10.5 sack 2018 version, you're not going to get it. It was fluky. It's not going to come back again in terms of without giving him an obscene amount of snaps, which you're just not going to do. The efficiency was not indicative of a 10.5 sack guy, but it'll be better than the 1 sack player. In terms of player comp, he could fill that Kyle Wilbur role of he can play some 4-3 pass rusher, he can play some 4-3 linebacker, 3-4 outside linebacker. Little bit of positional flex there, plus knowing McCarthy makes him an intriguing if under the radar target. Another linebacker here, again, not very many we're going over. A.J. Klein. He was a starter for the Saints under Mike Nolan, who is now the Cowboys defensive coordinator. The concern here for me is that his play is probably more indicative of a really, really good backup. Is he going to take less money and fewer snaps, though, to come to the Cowboys? I'm not convinced that he's going to be. I want to bring back Sean Lee. That's a big area of focus for me, at least for 1 more year. You have Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch. I'm not going to spend big money on a linebacker who, in the ideal scenario, really doesn't play all that much. I might prefer to bring back Sean Lee, bring back Joe Thomas instead. That might be an easier route for the Dallas Cowboys to take. All right, fellas, it is almost Valentine's Day, and speaking from personal experience, you do not want to forget. So let me help you guys out. I'm saving you 15% off all flowers and gifts from Pro Flowers. Head over to chatsports.com/flowers. That's chatsports.com/flowers. Do it right now. That way, you don't have to pay extra for the rush shipping. Get it out of the way. And if you want an added pro tip, the cookies are also a great gift because you end up with some. That way, it's not just flowers that go dead in a week or 2. Get the cookies and the flowers. Impress your wife, your girlfriend, or your mother this Valentine's Day by heading over to chatsports.com/flowers and getting your gift today. Moving on now to some cornerbacks. Aqib Talib, who many of you have mentioned before. I figure we'll bring him back up. It's fine. Don't bank on him being a number 1 guy. He's about to turn 34 years old. He's been hurt in back-to-back years. He's no longer in his prime. But he had interest in joining the Cowboys in the past. He's kind of from the area. And corner's an area of need, especially if you lose Byron Jones. So maybe what you could do is if you lose Byron, spend a pick on a corner and also bring in Aqib Talib to give you some veteran presence and some veteran play there. You are really thin if you lose Byron and Anthony Brown. You don't want to go that route if you're the Cowboys. Next up is Trey Waynes, a former first-round pick, top 15, actually almost top 10. Hasn't really been good enough in Minnesota, but you look at the cornerback class, he's one of the few promising and really affordable targets at corner. He's not the best guy out there, probably more of a cornerback too, but you could also go with maybe a James Bradbury. The problem is he wants to get paid. He's made that very clear. He thinks he's one of the best corners in the NFL, so you're not really going to be saving that much money compared to Byron Jones. And yes, James Bradbury forces more interceptions and makes more interceptions, but he also gets beat a little bit more often. I don't know if he's really an upgrade over Byron Jones. Maybe he's standing pat. At that point, wouldn't you stick with the guy that you know fits on your defense as he's done for the past few years? So who do you want as cornerback number 1? Type B for Byron or type in O for other. I say Byron of the available guys. I wouldn't mind Chris Harris, but the price tag, again, is going to be pretty similar, and Harris is aging. I'd lean more towards Byron, but I know some of you are at least going to type in O for other. Let's talk safeties then. I can't wait to get my heart broken once again. Justin Simmons would be a fantastic pickup by the Dallas Cowboys. He's really one of the bigger names I included on this list. Unfortunately, I would venture to say the Broncos will find a way to keep him. He's too good to let leave in free agency. Now, in terms of the contract status here, Xavier Woods, Donovan Wilson, the only two under contract this offseason for the Dallas Cowboys. That's it. Jeff Heath, Kevon Frazier, Darian Thompson are all set to be free agents offseason. Also, just one quick note here before we get into our next player. Jamal Adams is not on here. He is a trade target, which is coming up later on in the week, not a free agency target. Next up is Von Bell. These Saints, he's talented. I like him in run support. He's been a good player for New Orleans, but they're tight on cap space. They have Marcus Williams. They just drafted Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Maybe they are forced to let Von Bell leave in free agency. If that's the case, I'm down to bring him in. Now, he's not a true playmaker. Just one interception. That's not really his role, but you leave Xavier Woods at free safety, play Von Bell at strong safety. That's an intriguing fit for me. I wonder how much he'll actually cost. If it's not Landon Collins money, I'm at least intrigued for the Dallas Cowboys. A player we've also discussed before and is a logical fit. That's Clinton-dix. First off, fantastic name. You guys all know that. He also played for Mike McCarthy in Green Bay, and he certainly fills a need. Now, he played well for the Bears. I don't know what his price tag will end up looking like. He is a playmaker, make no mistake about it. 2 interceptions, picked about 4 each year. But he also missed more tackles since he entered the league than Jeff Heath. That's a bit of a red flag. If you want somebody a little bit cheaper, potentially, about Carl Joseph, a name we've discussed many times on this show. Former first-round pick, has battled injuries before. That could drive his costs down. The upside is there. If the Raiders let him leave, I would take a gamble here, see if he can become on maybe a 1-year prove-it deal or even a 2-year prove-it deal, if that's really such a thing. Slot him in at strong safety, pairing with Xavier Woods. I'm intrigued by that duo. Let's continue along with our common theme of players who have ties to the new coaching staff. That is Damarius Randall, who played for the Green Bay Packers from 2015 to 2017. Once he made the change over to safety, he's really improved his play. Now, he's more of a true free safety, so his fit with Xavier Woods maybe isn't quite as clean as, say, a Von Bell. But I'm down to play both of those guys at free and at strong, be a more versatile back end there. So watch out for Randall as a potential sleeper target in free agency. Today's show is also brought to you by BetDSI. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code Cowboys120 for 120% deposit bonus. One more time, that's chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys120. Let's talk offense, then. There are some names nowhere near as plentiful. I will continue to be on the train of Colt McCoy for backup quarterback. I have wanted this for years. I see no reason to change quite yet. And he's better than Cooper Rush, right? Like, God forbid Dak goes down, which I'm not looking at other quarterbacks because Dak's going to be back. But God forbid Dak goes down, I'd rather trust Colt McCoy than Cooper Rush. All right, wide receivers. This is a tough spot to really judge. We'll do our own separate video here as well. I love Emmanuel Sanders. I've loved him for a long time. I think he's only a real option, though, if Amari Cooper leaves. Niners, they don't want to let him leave. Obviously, he's been great for them in San Francisco. And he's probably going to be a little bit too expensive. If you're going to pay Amari Cooper, you can't be throwing around another 11 or whatever million on an Emmanuel Sanders. If Cooper leaves, he becomes one of my top targets. But for me, and I'll let you guys vote here as well, I'd prefer to keep Cooper of those two. Again, I'm a big Sanders fan, but he's aging. Cooper's younger. They both fit Dak Prescott, but I know Cooper can be a number one with Dak Prescott. I've seen him do it. Just get him healthy. So of these two, I'm having in my C for Cooper, but you guys cast your votes in the comment section. All right, next up is Robby Anderson. The Cowboys could really use a deep threat, a true vertical speedster. Anderson's at the top one out there, but again, the price tag for Robby Anderson probably too high if Amari Cooper stays. So we'll get to some other cheaper options here, but Amari Cooper's a free agent. I feel better about Randall Cobb coming back since McCarthy is the head coach. I'm not going to throw big money at a number 4 receiver then. So Anderson, Sanders, both targets if the Cowboys lose one or both of their top receivers. Next up is a cheaper, at least potentially, option here. That's Demarcus Robinson, stuck behind a really good Chiefs wide receiver core. This could be a target. Let's say Randall Cobb leaves. Well, you can use Robinson in a variety of spots. You can use Cooper and Gallup in those same spots there. He could be a cheaper option. Probably not as cheap, though, as Rashard Higgins, the Browns receiver. He fell out of favor in Cleveland. I liked him in 2018. Wasn't really a factor this year. So he clearly needs a fresh start. My question is the presence of the former Browns receivers coach Adam Henry a positive or a negative? Henry was there in 2018. 2019, was it a Kitchens thing, Freddie Kitchens thing, or was it Henry didn't like Higgins that much either? That's a question that will have to be sorted out, but he certainly is a player worth watching, and the Cowboys had success, by the way, in recent years with those Colorado State receivers, like Michael Gallup, for example. Let's talk tight ends then. I'm not going to go after Austin Hooper Hunter, and that's probably going to be too expensive. How about Eric Ebron? I don't know what his price tag will be. Broke out in 2018, injury-plagued 2019. Colts have said they do not plan on bringing him back. And if you look at the Cowboys tight end depth chart, man, you need help here. I don't want that help to be Jason Witten, just to make that clear. I am down to give Blake Jarwin a bigger role. I'm also not going to assume that Blake Jarwin is the obvious. Give him a shot? Sure, I am on board with that. Assume he's the clear-cut number one? Maybe not. And frankly, how much do we trust Dalton Schultz? Been an okay blocker, hasn't really brought you much in the passing game. So here's my question for you guys. Is Blake Jarwin the future at tight end? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Because of all your needs, I've got no problem giving Blake Jarwin a full-time shot this year at tight end. I also don't think, and I'm not convinced, that Jarwin is the guaranteed answer. So give him a shot, and maybe 2021, look more in depth at tight end help. Next up is Tyler Eifert. I don't really want someone in the Jason Witten role, just so we're clear, as I've been clear before. But Eifert could be that other tight end option. He's a talented player. He's just always hurt. That's the issue for Eifert. He didn't have a great year because, the Bengals sucked. But if he wants to come in on a one-year prove-it deal, that could make some sense for me for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not really looking at offensive linemen. I will throw out one name for you guys. Kind of fits the Will McClay special, former high-round pick, round 2 pick, and played for Mike McCarthy. That's Jason Spriggs. Now, he's, frankly, if we're being honest, he's been a bust in Green Bay. Hasn't been able to get on the field at all and was not even the swing tackle this past year. But you want to bring him in on a cheap 1 year, heck, maybe even non-guaranteed contract to be a swing tackle for Green Bay, or for the Cowboys and leave Green Bay? I'm intrigued by that. It only really makes sense, by the way, if you choose to decline the club option on Cam Fleming. Bring him back. You're not going to look at tackles. And even if you do, you're going to let them compete probably with Brandon Knight, not guarantee them a role on this Cowboys team. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.